This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome everybody to a meeting of the Montachusett Region Metropolitan Planning Organization. I'm David Moeller. I represent Secretary Gina Fiandaca here. Could you please call the roll?
We have David Moeller representing Mass DOT Secretary and CEO Gina Fiandaca.
I'm here.
Ann Sullivan representing Highway Division Administrator Jonathan Gulliver.
Here.
Trevor Beauregard Gardner.
Here.
George Gahali Mart.
Present.
Brian Croto, Subregion 1.
Present.
And Tim Kilhart, Subregion 3.
Here.
And that is all the signatories that I see right now. I'll try to keep up to date as people come into the meeting, but we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment at this time? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing none, if you want to comment during the meeting, let us know and we will call on you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the March 15th minutes. Can I get a motion and a second from a member to approve the minutes? And please state your name for the record when making the motion.
So moved. Tim Kilhart, Harvard.
Thank you. Is there a
I
second?
second that.
Thank you. Any comments, changes, questions, or suggestions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
David Moeller, Mass
Yes.
DOT.
Oh,
Ann
sorry.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Mass DOT Highway.
Yes.
Trevor Beauregard Gardner.
Yes.
George Gahali Mart.
Yes.
Brian Croto, Subregion 1.
Yes.
And I do see now Rosemary Meissner, Subregion 2.
Yes.
And Tim Kilhart, Subregion 3.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the statewide long-range transportation plan. Is this you, Derek, or Chris?
I think it's usually good, but I could take this one. So I don't think there's a ton to update MPO members on. I think this is a standing agenda item on this MPO meeting, but we can let folks know that in the next couple months, you can expect to probably see some updates related to content for the plan. We're developing some problem statements and some other materials that are going to be posted on our plan website. So just stay tuned for that. But other than that, we're just continuing to work on some analysis for the statewide long range plan. So thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Any questions for Derek? Seeing none. Next item on the agenda is the 2023-2027 Transportation Improvement Program possible tip amendment.
This is in relation to a request we got from MART for a transit tip amendment for FFY 2023. This will be the fourth amendment for that tip. And with that, I'll let George Gahali go over the changes that are being asked for in this amendment.
George?
Yes, the changes really we have, it is pricing changes due to rising in construction cost. Some of them, it is very simple and just a little change in pricing. And some project has been moved to future years because the increase in the pricing. Well, I can go the one by one if you like. The one in yellow markers, there are changes in pricing. Like this one, the Leominster asphalt replacement, due to the increase in the price, we decide to move this project to next year. And this is why you see that change in the price from in the construction, about over almost $400,000. The other one is the rehab of Fitchburg parking garage. This one, it is really a slight change. This is a small difference in the cost estimate, just a couple $2,000. The elevator rehab, the elevators in several locations. Really, the cost estimate came very high due to the rise in construction cost. We decided to do it on multiple years, and we decided to do only one location at this time because the total project for several location was much higher than 500,000. We decided to do only the ITC at this time. The other change is in the elevator design. No, it is. I'm just looking at the shelters. The shelter prices came very high too due to the change in pricing. We added another $9,000 and will be buying only maybe 3 shelters. Then we were proposing to purchase 5. We're going to purchase 3 of them, maybe 4 if we can. The other project will be taking out of this year is the construction of the HVAC system. Will be moving it to outer years, and this will be down over $600,000 from the budget. The other changes we have is only very small changes, like this one, the Atoll project. It is the change is only very minor, over $700. And the other project we have some changes is the design of the HVAC system. Just design. It is estimated between 75,000 and 81, and we decreased the budget by over 27,000. The other new project, it's not a new project, but we requesting an increase in budget by about 200,000 because the cost estimate from the design came to 437,000 and some change, and we do have in budget only 200. We needed 237. We needed another 200. This is the only changes I have for fiscal year 23.
Thank you, George. Any questions for George? Seeing none, can I get a motion and a second to release this amendment for a 21-day public review process? And please state your name for the record when making the motion.
So moved, Dan Sullivan?
Is there a second?
Second, Brian Croto.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Please call the roll.
David Moeller, Mass DOT.
Yes.
Ann Sullivan, Mass DOT Highway.
Yes.
Trevor Beauregard, Gardner.
Yes.
George Kahali, Mart.
Yes.
Brian Croto, Subregion 1.
Yes.
Rosemary Meisner, Subregion 2.
Yes.
And Tim Kilhart, Subregion 3.
Yes.
Brian, we do have a new MPO member signatory from City of Leominster, Mark Marini.
Okay, sorry, Mark. Mark Piermarini, Leominster.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the 24 to 28 Transportation Improvement Program. Is this you, Brad?
Actually, it's Brian.
No, Brian. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, so the draft 2024 through 28 tip should have gone out, did go out in the mailing last week, along with some project lists. And today we're looking for a motion to release this for a 21-day public comment period, which will last from next Tuesday, April 25th through Monday, May 15th. First, we'll go over the projects that are included in the tip. There is one significant change from the projects that went out with the mailing last week. However, we were able to keep all the other projects listed in the year that we discussed at last month's meeting when we chose a preferred scenario for the funding for the target projects. So the significant change that we've seen had to do with our target section project for 2024 Leominster reconstruction rehab of Route 12. And I know this has been a main topic of discussion for this group as regard to the target section in the last few months. This project, previously we had this advanced constructed over 2 seasons, 2024 and 2025. In our preferred scenario last month, we decided to keep this project fully funded in 2024, which opened up a large gap in 2025, which would theoretically allow us to move a project forward when we review this next year. However, this project in Leominster, Route 12, saw a significant price increase. Previously, it was listed at roughly $13,283,000. We see a 61% increase from that number up to $21,444,000. So it being a target section project, we were concerned about the effects it would have on the rest of the list. As we know, it needs to be a fiscally constrained document. However, luckily, we are able to still fit this in. We could fund this project with 2024 target section funds, along with some supplemental state section funding as well in 2024, along with carrying the remainder in 2025 target section. We do have room to do that, and it would not affect the placement of the other projects. Everything would be listed as we preferred at last month's meeting, except the Leominster project would basically just be funded over 2 years. So I have an updated handout of how these projects are listed in the draft tip as of now. And I'll go over those. What you see right now is the target section projects, these projects that we have discretion over placement, and we've been discussing the last few months, are shaded in the olive green color. In 2024, you can see on this handout, we have one project, Leominster Reconstruction Rehab of Route 12. It's listed 3 times here. That is because we have 3 different funding sources listed, and there's 3 line items on the tip. The non-shaded projects are statewide priority projects in our region. These are set by Mass DOT. We have a portion of this Leominster reconstruction on 12 project carried in the statewide section, along with Fitchburg bridge replacement related work on Water Street over Boulder Drive and Pan Am Railroad, along with Athol intersection improvements, Crescent Street and Chestnut Hill Avenue, Fitchburg, Leominster, Twin Cities Rail Trail construction phase 2. This project is carried also in the statewide section in 2025 as well as 2026, over 3 years. Also, Fitchburg, Ashby resurfacing related work on Route 31, and Athol, Phillips to Templeton bridge preservation of 8 bridges crossing Route 2. Moving to 2025, in the target section, we have the remaining portion of Leominster reconstruction rehab on Route 12. Also, we have Ashburnham Road rehab on 101. In the statewide priority section, we have Hubbardston bridge replacement, Williamsville Road over the Burnshirt River, along with the second year of the Fitchburg Leominster Twin Cities Rail Trail Phase 2 construction, and Sterling stormwater drainage improvements at Wachusett Reservoir on Route 110, Lancaster Leominster interstate maintenance related work on I-190, and Athol bridge replacement, Route 2A Main Street over the Boston Main Railroad. In 2026, Templeton reconstruction of Route 68, along with the first year of Harvard resurfacing and box widening on Air Road. Statewide section, we have the final and third year of the Fitchburg Leominster Twin Cities Rail Trail project, along with Harvard Lancaster bridge replacement, Jackson Road over the National River, and Fitchburg improvements at Memorial Middle School, which is Safe Routes to School project. In 2027, the second year of Harvard resurfacing and box widening on Air Road, along with Athol intersection improvements, Route 2A over Brookside Road, and Clinton reconstruction of Starling Street, which is Route 62. In the statewide section, we have one project listed in 2027, which is Gardner Bike Path Bridge construction, North Central Pathway over Route 140. In 2028, there are no statewide section projects. There are 2 target section projects, and those are Fitchburg reconstruction of John Fitch Highway, Sterling intersection improvements, Route 140 over 62. Excuse me. So as I mentioned, this list remains roughly the same as what we preferred at last month's meeting. However, due to the large price increase of the Leominster Route 12 project, we need to carry that over to 2025. And luckily, it does not affect any other project when it comes to the target section. So this will be included in the draft document if we're to go out to public comment next week. Also, in the draft is transit section. Again, this is set by Regional Transit Authority. These are their priority projects. I won't go over this list in detail. It's pretty extensive. It does cover the same 5 federal fiscal years, 2024 through 2028. It includes things like rehab of various smart facilities, the purchasing of vehicles, replacement of buses, and that sort. So this list is included in the tip as well. And that's pretty much my update of the projects that we have. So what we're looking for is a motion to release for a 21-day public comment period. After that comment period, we will review the comments with the MPO at the May meeting and vote to endorse the final document.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian?
I move to release the document, Guy Corbacero.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Trevor.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Please call the roll.
David Moeller, Mass DOT.
Yes.
Ann Sullivan, Mass DOT Highway.
Yes.
Trevor Beauregard, Gardner.
Yes.
Mark Pamarini, Leominster.
Yes.
And now I see Guy Corbacero, MRPC,
Yes.
George Kahali, Mart,
Yes.
Brian Croto, Subregion 1,
Yes.
Rosemary Meisner, Subregion 2,
Yes.
and Tim Kellhart, Subregion 3.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. I believe the next item on the agenda is the UPWP. Is that correct?
Yes, this will be George Snow.
When you're ready, George.
Thank you, Brad and Steve. Our draft UPWP is ready to go out for the 21-day public review and comment period. In sections 1.0 and 1 and 2.0, we have usual tasks that we do every year, such as a tip development, GIS-related work, payment management, safety-related work, and data collection. For section 3.0, the Housing Coordination Plan, the Climate Change and Resiliency Program, and the Freight Study task are being continued from the existing UPWP. We received 3 study requests from member communities. We selected 2 requests and declined 1. The one that was declined was a Townsend Route 119 corridor study. We have done much work in Townsend over the past 5 years, so we wanted to be sure to include other communities for the upcoming UPWP. We encourage Townsend to reapply next year. The first task that was chosen was the North County Land Trust Planning and Mapping task. This task will have 2 parts. Part 1 will be for trail planning. Staff will work with the North County Land Trust, or Trust, to conduct a trail inventory for all their properties, as well as ground truthing, trail distances, and the concerns of the existing trails. Potential trail connections within trust properties and beyond will be studied with the hope of establishing links to expand the trail networks in the trust area. In addition, staff will inventory historical, natural, and other points of interest on all trust properties with trails. Map tool will be a mapping component. Staff will create updated trail maps for all trust properties, as well as a regional map suitable for printing. A web map will also be created and be available on the trust website. The second task that was chosen was the multimodal connections task. The objective of this task is to assist Groton with updating their existing 2012 walkability study of the downtown area.
What's that?
This study will expand on the focus to include the extensive trail networks and points of interest that the town has to offer. With a significant increase in bicycle and pedestrian activity in the town, complete street concepts, and finding multimodal connections to the town trails, schools, parks, cultural historical venues, and commercial establishments have become a focus of the town. This study will work to address these concerns and connections by identifying areas of multimodal focus that will help establish prioritized projects. The UPW budget handout, as you see on the screen, shows the dollar amounts allocated to each task, as well as the percentage share breakdown for FHWA, FTA, which is 80% of the total, and MassDOT, which is 20% of the total. As usual, MassDOT requests that we work to have the first 3 sections be of similar total dollar amounts. As you can see from the budget table, the total dollar amounts for the 3 sections are within reasonable distance of $250,000. Section 4 is not included in the MassDOT request and has its own total dollar amount. Today, the action we are seeking is a vote from the MPO to release the draft UPWP for the 21-day public review and comment period. That's all I have.
Thank you, George. Any questions for George? Seeing none, can I get a motion and a second to release the UPWP for a 21-day public review process? And please state your name for the record when making the motion.
Yeah, I make a move to release it.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Guy Corbacero, second.
Motion having made and seconded, please call the roll.
David Moeller, MassDOT,
Yes.
Ann Sullivan, MassDOT Highway,
Yes.
Trevor Burgard, Gardner,
Yes.
Mark Pamarini, Leominster, Mark Pamarini, Leominster, Okay, Guy Corbacero, MRPC.
Yes.
George Kahali, Mart.
Yes.
Brian Croto, Subregion 1.
Yes.
Rosemary Meisner, Subregion 2.
Yes.
And Tim Kilhart, Subregion 3.
Yes.
Okay, it does
Thank you.
carry even without the vote from Leominster.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the transportation plan.
That is mine. Well, we're going to go over it quickly and not to bore you with too many topics or discussions on this. We did a public outreach survey, and we tried to copy, or not 100%, but base it on the same types of questions as we did in the 2020 RTP development, so that we could have some type of comparison. So what you're going to see here is some of the preliminary analysis for that study. Last month, we talked a little bit about where the individuals came from who filled out the study and where they worked. This time we'll start with question 3, which asked, who are you, or what do you do for a living, whether you're an elected or appointed official, a public employee, or a member of the general public. And you can see just from the graph up here that the majority were general members of the general public. About 68%, 69% were from the general public. This was due, I think, to the public outreach surveys, public outreach workshops we did, where we discussed the survey and provided the information to people, how to get to the online survey. We also sent paper copies to each library and senior center in the region, and we were able to pick those up and get those added into the survey. So that, I think, accounts for why you see the majority of the public opinions come from the general public. Question number 4 asked about primary method of travel to work in a pre-pandemic state. And what you see here is the majority overwhelmingly drove alone to work. About 84% of the survey participants indicated that. The next highest was, of course, the local or commuter bus, with only about 6.5% responded that. So this question terms with the follow-up question, question 5, which asked, what was your primary method of travel post-pandemic, to see if we had any kind of change in the numbers. And not really. The drive alone category remained at about 83%. Commuter rail had about the same percentage, 6.67. There was a slight increase in the car or van pool, which car or van pool, which showed 5.4% beforehand, and that rolled up slightly to just under 7% after post-pandemic. You also see that the number of respondents changed. We had 200, we had about the same number of respondents, 291 and 292. We're going to go back over some of these numbers and look at them and see if there's we asked for comments too as part of this, where they could fill in some information to see if there was anything related to whether people are doing remote work, working from home, and so forth. So we'll see if we can gather any of that from the data they've sent us. The next question we had is question 6, related to the average length of the commute pre-pandemic. And what we saw here was that the majority would commute anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes beforehand to work. So that was about 36% of the individual respondents. But all told, more than half would either take 15 to 30, would take 30 minutes or less to get to their jobs. And again, the follow-up question was if that pattern has changed since post-pandemic. And what we see is there's still a large number of people driving alone. And actually that increased slightly from the 28% pre-pandemic to just over 33% post-pandemic. So there was a slight change there. Excuse me. The 15 to 30 minute correspondence remained the same, about 32% to 36%. But overall, the total respondents, we had 277 respondents to this question and only 291 on the prior question. So we're going to, again, look at this a little bit more in depth to see if we can determine whether this is because of a change in their working patterns or they're working from home and therefore not commuting to work. And we'll see if we can put some numbers to that and make an observation based on those what they've said in the response. Question 8 went on to ask them, in your commute, what's the biggest impact that affects your commute to work the most? And these are based upon the 2020 RTP responses, where we looked at, gave them options such as roadway infrastructure, congestion, safety, accidents, and so forth. And you can see that the majority said that the roadway congestion was their major problem in commuting to work. About 42% of the people responded thusly, and 37% talked about roadway infrastructure being the major problem. So a significant amount of the respondents either said roadway infrastructure or congestion for their commuting problems. The next question took that information, asked them, based upon importance, how would you rank the following issues that should be addressed over the next 25 years? And again, we gave them the same types of breakdowns as roadway maintenance, transit options, congestion, pedestrian bicycle accessibility, safety on the roads and highways, economic development, residential development, climate change, changing demographics, and improved town center. So we asked them to rate 1 to 10, 10 being least important. And this is the result of that. We calculated based upon the number of respondents to each one, and it came out, as you see on this table here, the majority, the highest ranked one would be the roadway maintenance and infrastructure. What we then did was looked back at the responses we got in the 2020 RTP survey and compared, see if there was a change in the perception of the roadway or the network, the travel network conditions. And this last slide sort of shows that. Here are the same conditions or issues that were asked of them in that question, and they're ranked from 1 to 10, and based upon, in the first column, based upon the survey they just completed for 2024. And you see roadway maintenance was first, safety and roads second, transit third, congestion fourth, and so on. In the 2020 RTP, shown by this column here, the third column in, roadway maintenance was the first ranked problem in 2020, and it's the same here. But safety and road conditions in 2020 were ranked fourth. Transit option was the second highest ranked issue in 2020, and now it dropped itself down to 3. So there was a loss of 1 position for transit options. Safety has moved up 2 spots. So it seems, the safety issues, people becoming more and more aware of the needs and the problems out there with safety, have ranked that higher on this survey. And what we're going to do is this ties into the planning scenarios that we have developed to help us prioritize the target projects we talked about in the TIP presentation just recently. So the next step now in my presentation is on the planning scenarios and what they are and how they're being impacted or changed. This is from some of it's from the 2020 RTP and the write-up for this year, but in 2020 we looked back and developed the planning scenarios based upon a commission put together by executive order, and established a commission on the future of transportation in Commonwealth. And they came up with looking at, they were tasked to look at transportation issues into the year 2040. And they identified some issues, or what they called conditions for consideration for the state. And we looked at those scenarios, and based upon those, sort of developed 3 scenarios for the Montachusett region. The scenarios they presented by the commission were gridlock, a vibrant core, municipal hubs, and statewide spread. So again, looking at taking those trends and analysis we had, those scenarios that they presented there in our RTP survey, and some of the public input we got from The workshops were held, we developed our own scenarios, and those will flow into the financial plan of the RTP. I'll just quickly go over what scenarios that we've identified for our region. The first one we were calling a status quo scenario. And in the past, we've basically looked at developing the TIP and prioritizing projects based upon the projects that have come in during the regular development process. Communities are reacting to issues and situations and then developing projects to try and address those issues. They're site-specific usually, maybe at one intersection, two intersections at the most, but it's a reactionary type scenario. And so we kept that and call that the status quo and really not change too much of what we're doing right now. The next scenario is we're calling multiple hubs. And this sort of aligns with the Transportation Commission's growth on multiple hubs. But we're sort of defining it a little bit differently as an inter-community connections, getting from one community to the next, that the communities maintain their current characteristics. Commercial centers remain in Fitchburg, Leominster, Gardner, Athol, the major communities in the region, the larger communities, and the smaller communities maintain their residential nature and the smaller businesses, so that they maintain their sort of same type of community interaction you're doing now. But people need to get from one community to the next to do shopping, medical issues, and so on and so forth. So we're calling this these are multiple hubs, and we're focusing on inter-community connections from one community to the other, point A to point B, across the region. And when we looked back at the funding of target projects in the past, for the last RTP, we were able to sort of break out how much we spent on roadway maintenance projects, how much on transit, how much on bicycle and ped facilities, and so forth. And we came up with this sort of breakdown of, in our target allocations, that we should be trying to program about 40% towards roadway maintenance, about 12% to bike and peds, 9% to safety. And to identify it for this scenario, which we're calling intercommunities, we were saying that the majority of the roadway maintenance funds should be programmed towards those roads that maintain that intercommunity connections, the Route 12s to 140s to 119s and so forth. And those would be priority locations for improvement. And the same with safety, we should adjust to locations that have the most impact on people making their way from one community to the next. We came up with this breakdown. Now these breakdowns will change, these percentages will change slightly based upon the new survey we have. So we're going to see about safety moving up in a bit and allocating more funds towards that. But this is what we're calling scenario 2, an inter-community connection. Scenario 3 goes the other way. It talks about communities developing themselves, adapting a strong community center, wanting to keep businesses and activity in the town, trying to get more people into the downtown area through sidewalks, trails, and those kind of things. So it's an intra-community scenario where we're trying to look at programs and projects that would help facilitate travel within a town as opposed to long distance travels. And looking at, the breakdown of funding, as we did with the previous one, we're keeping that same breakdown where you saw 40% for going towards roadway infrastructure. But instead, we'll focus the majority of those funds into roadways and projects that address intra-community or stay within the community and facilitate movement within the towns. And that's the difference between the two planning scenarios we're looking at. And again, we'll adjust these based upon the 2024 survey that we just completed. What our next step will be then is to dig a little bit more deeper into the survey, but also to develop, identify what areas or roads or potential project areas fit into the intra and inter-community scenario, so that we can have something to look back on and say, when a project comes in, we can evaluate it as fitting scenario 2 or fitting scenario 3, and seeing how our funding is breaking down on a level that matches what we see in the graphs and the tables we put together for this planning scenario chapter. That, in a quick nutshell, is what we're planning to do, and we're in the midst of putting together. And once we get a little bit further in the development of these chapters, we're going to start posting them to our website. And so we'll let everybody know when they are up there. But when you can go to the MRPC website, mrpc.org, and from the front page, you're able to link to the chapters for the 2024 RTP and start seeing what we're proposing to do. That is
Brad.
Okay.
Any questions for Brad? Thank you very much. That was very well done.
Thank you.
What's the next thing on our agenda?
It is updates for Mass DOT Highway.
Ann?
So for 2023, the Westminster project, 607432. That's Westminster rehab and box widening on Route 140 from Patricia Road to the Princeton Town Line. That project is at PSNE, and it has an August 12th add date. In Gardner, project number 609279. That is the roundabout construction at Elm Street, Pearl Street, Central Street, and Green Street. That is also at PSNE. That has a May 6th add date. In Harvard, 612620. This is under our statewide bridge funding. This is the Harvard Route 2 bridge over the Nashua River, Tank Road, and Boston and Maine Railroad. That project is at 100%. I don't have a PSNE due date, but the add date is 6/10, and that it's a book job, so that shouldn't be an issue. Under the NHPP projects, Fitchburg 631 rather. That is Fitchburg resurfacing and related work on Route 2. That was advertised in February, awarded to Lynch in March, and the NTP was issued in late March, so they should get starting this summer. The Ashby project, which is a safety project, 609314. This is the intersection improvements at Greenville Road, which is Route 31 and Turnpike Road. That was advertised in August of 22. That moved into the 22 tip year. The NTP was issued to ET&L in October, so work has started on that. And then the last project is a TAP project. It's a Safe Routes to School project in Gardner, 610672. That's Elm Street resurfacing and sidewalk work. That project is at 100%. The PSNE was due in late March, so I'll have to get a new date on that. It currently has a June 24th add date.
Thank you, Ann. Any questions for Ann? Seeing none. George, do you have a transit update?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any new update at this time.
Thank you.
David?
Next up.
Daryl Amaral is here for District 2. There are a couple of District 2 projects on the highway side.
Ann. I'm sorry, Daryl. Thank you, Ann. Daryl?
No worries. Thank you. All right, sure. So in 2023, we have a project that was advertised. This is project 608784. This is the Templeton Roundabout construction of the intersection of Patriots Road, South Main Street, North Main Street, and Gardner Road. This was advertised on February 11th. Bid opening was March 21st, and it was awarded on April 5th this year to AF Amarello and Sons Incorporated with a low bid of $2,251,718. Next in 24, we have project 608723. This is Athol intersection improvements at Crescent Street and Chestnut Hill Ave. The design is at 75%. Actually, at 100%. The 100% was submitted. Review comments were completed on March 1st, and we're awaiting responses to comments. The PSNE is due August 3rd this year, and the current add date is January 6th, 2024. Next in 2025, we have 612151 project in Athol bridge replacement, State 2A, Main Street over B&M Railroad. Design is at pre 25%. Over-the-shoulder review is anticipated in August 7th. 25% is due on December 4th. And the current ad date is December 7th, 2024. And that's all I have today for you.
Thank you, Daryl. Any questions for Daryl? Seeing
Thank you.
none. Next update is the JTPG.
Okay, just a couple items. MJTC will meet next month on May 10th at 2:30 p.m. The meeting will also serve as an opportunity for public comment on the TIP amendment, and the UPWP. We have some handouts for review. The first one is from MassDOT, and it's for the Northern Tier Passenger Rail Study newsletter from March 31st. The newsletter discusses the next steps in the study process. Ridership forecasts are part of the 4 additional potential service plans they are developing, and it discusses some of the basic information on forecast development. Next, we have from Federal Highway. It's a planning and grant program update for review. I compiled this from a couple of emails. It discusses some of the upcoming grant programs and how interested parties can get additional information. There was also some information on a webinar on transportation utility fees. That webinar was held on April 5th, but I'm sure if you go to the linked website, there should be a copy of the webinar there for your review. The next is also a handout from Federal Highway on a notice of funding opportunity, or NOFO, for the Wildlife Crossing Pilot Program for FFY 2022 and 2023. This program seeks to reduce wildlife vehicle collisions and improve habitat connectivity for terrestrial and aquatic species. The funding may be used for construction and non-construction projects. So if you're interested, follow the links that are there to get more information. And then there is an announcement from MassDOT for a virtual design public hearing for the bike path bridge over Route 140 in Gardner for the North Central Pathway. This meeting will be held on April 25th at 6:30 p.m. There is information on how to register included on the flyer. And all of these notices that I'm talking about right now are also on the MRPC website under announcements. So you can always go there and get information or the links to what you're interested in doing. And then finally, a general one on the MRPC transportation. We've engaged an outside vendor for this season's traffic count program. The Traffic Group Inc., which has offices in Maine, will be collecting counts for up to about 75 locations throughout the Montachusett region. And this includes the counts we need to do from MassDOT for this year. Approximately 30 to 35 are identified by MassDOT. So this is our second year of using an outside vendor. And actually this year when we went out for requests for proposals, we actually did get 2 bids that came in. And one was from the vendor from last year, and then the other one was a Traffic Group. And they were very close bids. But this appears to be the way we'll be going in the future. So, and that's all I have on MJTC.
Thank you, Brad. Any questions for Brad? Seeing none. Brad, are you going to do the update for the commission too?
Yes, Guy is here, unless Guy wants to do it.
Sure. Go ahead. Sorry, I missed that. Actually, I got a short report from Glenn. There are so many grants available now and so few resources available to go after them. However, the MRPC has hired a grant writing consultant to assist our communities and the MRPC to prepare and submit grant proposals. MRPC urges communities to request proposal writing assistance, especially for the Commonwealth's One-Stop Grant Program. For more information, please contact Karen Chapman, Planning and Development Director at MRPC, or Glenn Eaton, Executive Director of MRPC. On a related topic, there has been an increase in funding to the MRPC, which means your regional planning district will be providing additional planning services in FY23, FY24, and beyond. MRPC plans to increase staff capacities this spring to ensure that all services are delivered with high quality and on-time basis. And that's the report for the MRPC.
Thank you, Guy. Any questions for Guy? Seeing none. Brad, when's our next MPO meeting?
The next meeting will be May 17th, at 1 p.m.
Excellent. Please mark your calendars if you haven't already. And with that, can I get a motion and a second to adjourn? And please state your name for the record.
I motion.
My second, Guy Corbaciro.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thanks, everyone.